Good morning, students. In the last class, we have discussed about the importance of ozone layer and what are the ways of disposal of waste, and if we are not going to properly dispose the waste, what consequences are going to happen. All such things were discussed. Now let us discuss about the use of disposable cups. Disposable cups means after using it, you throw it away immediately. So the usage of disposable cups, what are various levels are there in that, and why we have shifted from one type of disposable cup to another type of disposable cup. Initially, the disposable cups are made of plastic. The use of disposable plastic cups, it has given several odd experiences to mankind. Why? Because use of disposable plastic cups cause a lot of soil pollution, as the thrown out plastic cups are not biodegradable. Plastic is not biodegradable. So plastic cups are not biodegradable. As plastic cups are not biodegradable, these will remain in the nature for longer periods of time and cause soil pollution and water pollution also, to some extent even air pollution. When soil pollution and water pollution are caused, this in turn will result in the death of many soil inhabiting organisms and aquatic organisms, right? Otherwise, it may affect their rate of reproduction also. Otherwise, it may affect the availability of their food sources also. Finally, it may result in the poor population of those soil inhabiting organisms and aquatic organisms. By thinking all these things, we have shifted from the use of plastic cups to clay cups, from the use of plastic disposable cups to clay disposable cups, disposable clay cups. But disposable clay cups, they do not cause soil pollution or water pollution, but they cause loss of fertile soil. From where these disposable cups are made? By using fine soil. Fine soil is the top soil generally. So to make disposable clay cups in the large scale, a lot of fertile soil will be used, which will result in the loss of fertile soil. So when fertile soil is lost, what will happen? Automatically, we will lose the soil in order to grow the plants. Whatever the soil that is required, that soil we will lose it. We will lose the soil that is useful for the growth of plants. So, use of disposable plastic cups cause soil and water pollution, and use of clay cups cause loss of fertile soil. In order to solve the above problems, use of disposable paper cups disposable paper cups are made and getting used currently to drink tea and coffee like drinks, especially in trains as well as in many functions, because large scale utilization of disposable cups, it is actually occurs in the public places and in the trains. Okay, Since disposable paper cups are biodegradable, they do not generally cause harm to the soil or water much. These paper cups, paper is made from plants. So paper cups are biodegradable. Since disposable paper cups are biodegradable, they do not cause any harm to the soil or water much. Now let us discuss the chapter and exercises. First question. Which of the following groups contain only biodegradable items? Option A, grass, flowers and leather. Only biodegradable items only, all of them. Option B, grass, wood and plastic. Plastic is not biodegradable, so it cannot be considered as biodegradable items. Next, option C, fruit peels, cake and lime juice. All of them are only biodegradable. And option D, cake, wood and grass. All of them are biodegradable only. So, option A, option C and option D. These three options, they contain only biodegradable items, whereas option B contains one non-biodegradable items. So answer for 1 is A, C and D. Next, question number 2. Which of the following constitute a food chain? Grass, wheat and mango. They cannot form food chain because all of them are producers only. Option B, grass, goat and human. It can form food chain because grass can be eaten by goat and goat can be eaten by human being. Next, option C, goat, cow and elephant. All of them are belonging to one trophic level. They cannot form food chain. Next, option D, grass, fish and goat. Okay, grass and fish, they may form first level and second level, but goat, okay, it cannot form the next level. So only option B, grass, goat and human is the correct answer. Which of the following are environment friendly practices? Okay, carrying cloth bags to put purchases in while shopping. It is an environment friendly practice only. Switching off unnecessary lights and fans, so saving the electricity and power, whatever it may be, it is also environmental friendly practice only. Walking to school instead of getting your mother to drop you on her scooter, so saving petrol as well as not causing pollution, both together are done when you just go by walk instead of going by scooter. So it is also environment friendly practice only. So all of the above is the correct answer. Next, fourth question. What will happen if we kill all the organisms in one trophic level? If only from one trophic level all organisms are killed, what will happen? The organisms of next trophic level do not get food, and its next level also, since the organisms of this trophic level may not survive and cannot provide food the organisms of their next trophic level. So this causes imbalance in the food web and ecosystems. So when the organisms of one particular trophic level are completely killed, okay, if assume that it is herbivore, then what will happen? The next level organisms, that is smaller carnivores, they do not get food, and when they do not get food, smaller carnivores also may die, okay, because of starvation, or they may move to some other place. Then larger carnivores, they do not get food, right? Because of these two things, imbalance in the ecosystem will be created. As herbivores are all of them are killed, the producers, their number will increase up to saturation level. That is also problematic thing only, right? Overgrowth of anything or over extinction of anything will cause imbalance in the ecosystem. Fifth question. Will the impact of removing all the organisms in a trophic level be different for different trophic levels? Can the organisms of any trophic level be removed without causing any damage to the ecosystem? This question is already answered. Second part. Can the organisms of any one trophic level be removed without causing any damage to the ecosystem? No. It is not possible. So, I am answering only for first part now. Will the impact of removing all the organisms in a trophic level be different for different trophic levels? Impact of removing all the organisms of one particular trophic level, will it be same to all trophic levels or different to all trophic levels? It is different. The impact will be different. How? Example, if herbivores are removed, that is second trophic level organisms are removed, all plants will grow and increase their number rapidly than ever before. Okay. Thus, there is an increase in the number of producers. If herbivores are removed, then the carnivores do not get proper food and the number of carnivores will be decreased. If carnivores are removed, number of herbivores increased and they start to eat up all of the producers. So number of producers decreased. So here I have taken two examples. Okay, first one is if herbivores are removed, number of producers will be what? Increased and number of carnivores will be decreased. Right? If herbivores are removed, number of producers will be what? Increased, because what are producers? Plants. Herbivores eat plants, but there is no herbivore to eat plants, so number of producers increased. And herbivores are eaten by what? Carnivores. As herbivores are not there, what will happen? Carnivores number will be decreasing. Assume that if carnivores are removed, what will happen? Number of herbivores is increasing and they start to eat up all the producers. So number of producers will be decreased. So removing of one particular trophic level of organisms is going to impact other trophic levels differently, not in the same way. Right? Thus, a sort of imbalance in the number of organisms in different trophic levels takes place. Okay? Because of the removal of the organisms from any one particular trophic level completely, a sort of imbalance in the number of organisms in different trophic levels takes place. Now coming to sixth question. What is biological magnification? Will the levels of biological magnification be different at different levels of the ecosystem? Biological magnification is the process of progressive accumulation of chemicals with increase in trophic levels is known as biological magnification. A process of progressive accumulation of chemicals with increase in trophic levels. As the trophic level is increasing, the accumulated chemical concentration also is increasing. This process is known as biological magnification or biomagnification in simple terms. With increase in the trophic level, there is an increase in the accumulated chemical in the bodies of that particular trophic level. This process is known as biological magnification. Biological magnification will be different at different trophic levels. It is highest in top trophic level and gradually decreases with decrease in trophic level. So when compared to producers, biological magnification is more in herbivores. When compared to herbivores, biological magnification is more in smaller carnivores. When compared to smaller carnivores, biological magnification is still more in larger carnivores. So with increase in the trophic level, biological magnification also is increasing. With decrease in trophic level, biological magnification also is decreased, okay, or in lower level. Seventh question. What are the problems caused by the non-biodegradable wastes that we generate? We generate so many non-biodegradable wastes like glass, broken glass pieces, plastic, okay, and so many synthetic materials, etc. So these are all non-biodegradable. The non-biodegradable wastes cause all three types of pollutions, that is soil pollution, water pollution and air pollution. Because of soil pollution, soil inhabiting organisms may die and plants cannot or may not grow properly. And because of water pollution, water inhabiting aquatic organisms may die and water becomes unfit for drinking. And because of added non-biodegradable waste to the air may become poisonous when these non-biodegradable waste materials are getting burnt. Sometimes non-biodegradable materials, when they are flying in the air and if they are getting caught up in the fire, then they will release poisonous gases in the air. If they are inhaled by the animals, then animals or human beings, they cause severe problems. Okay, right. Next question. If all the waste we generate is biodegradable, will this have no impact on the environment? Nothing like that. Okay. Even if we are generating completely biodegradable waste, okay, there is going to be some impact. Excessive waste generation, even if it is biodegradable waste also, it is going to impact. How? Biodegradable wastes are decomposed by what? They are decomposed by different microorganisms into simpler substances. These simpler substances are utilized as raw materials by producers, that is plants. Plants use these simpler materials, okay, or simpler substances as the raw materials, means in the form of nutrients. But the addition of excess biodegradable waste to the environment has certain adverse effect also. Though we think that biodegradable waste, when it is decomposed, it will be utilized as raw material by the growing plants. Still, excess addition of biodegradable waste is going to cause certain adverse effects also. What are those adverse effects? Biodegradable materials are degraded by whom? Microorganisms. When less load of biodegradable materials are there, they work normally. If more load of biodegradable materials are there, there is increased burden on the environment, especially on the decomposers. And as biodegradation is going on or decomposition is going on, we'll get some foul smell. If too much of biodegradable materials are there and they are getting decomposed, we'll get foul smell. Okay. And if it is taking place in the water, after decomposition, a lot of organic matter will be settled down in that particular water body. When a lot of organic matter is settled, automatically it causes poor availability of dissolved oxygen content, because of which many aquatic organisms may die. So, in a thought, like by addition of biodegradable material may not cause any harm, if anybody is having such thought, and adding the biodegradable waste to the water bodies especially, it is going to cause a lot of problem to the aquatic organisms, because when this biodegradable waste is getting decomposed, it is added in the form of organic matter, and with which dissolved oxygen content will be decreased. When the dissolved oxygen content is decreased, automatically the aquatic animal life will be at a problematic condition. They may die also, right? Last question. Why is damage to the ozone layer a cause for concern? And what steps are being taken to limit this damage? Very generalized question, already it is discussed. UV rays cause a lot of damage to us. They cause skin cancers like damages to mankind as well as other animals. And ozone layer prevents the UV rays from entering into the atmosphere. If damage to the ozone layer takes place, this UV rays will not be prevented from entering into the atmosphere. So only as ozone layer prevents UV rays from entering the Earth's atmosphere, damage to the ozone layer, it is a cause for concern. What are the steps that are being taken to limit this damage? We have to reduce the use of chlorofluorocarbon release substances. Okay. And we have to control large scale nuclear explosions and limit the use of supersonic planes. And we must be abide by the UNEP, United Nations Environment Program agreement that has been made in 1987, stating that we must freeze the release of CFCs at 1986 levels only. We should not go beyond that. And most of the steps are seriously taken into consideration in order to protect the ozone layer. And nowadays, ozone layer depletion is not that much hot topic. In 1980s and 86 to 1990, it was a great hot topic, but not now, because all these steps are being taken. And whatever earlier we were using DO sprays or refrigerators which used to emit the CFCs, now we are not using such things. We have produced the DO sprays or refrigerators which will not emit CFCs. And supersonic planes also, they are not emitting that much CFCs. Okay. And then large scale nuclear explosions are also not taking place now. And most of the countries are avoiding the UNEP agreement of 1987. Okay, with this chapter is completely completed. Okay, from next class onwards, we start revision of all chapters. Thank you.